Welcome to College Briefing. The content of the briefing includes: University of Pennsylvania head quits amid anti-Semitism row. Friends, Pilates and Comfort TV, how the class of 23 found balance. UN Human Rights Declaration turns 75. Is Kim Jong-un's daughter the next North Korean leader or a propaganda star? U.S. students grapple with free speech and anti-Semitism. University of Pennsylvania head quits amid anti-Semitism row. Telegraph. Liz McGill, the president of the University of Pennsylvania, UPenn, has resigned after refusing to say that calling for the genocide of Jews constituted harassment during a congressional testimony. Her resignation followed threats from donors to withdraw $100 million gifts from the school unless she stepped down. Scott Bach, the chair of the Penn Board of Trustees, also resigned following McGill's decision. The university leaders were questioned about how their institutions had responded to the rise in anti-Semitism, and while they condemned Hamas and anti-Semitism, they refused to say whether calling for the genocide of Jews would violate their university's code of conduct. Friends, Pilates and Comfort TV, how the class of 23 found balance. The Sydney Morning Herald. The class of 2023 in Victoria, Australia, has faced unique challenges during their high school years, including remote learning due to the pandemic. However, despite the pressures, the students have found ways to have fun and connect with their peers. Isaac Morris, a graduate from Malakuta P12 College, described his Year 12 class as a close-knit group that grew together during the year. Morris plans to study an arts degree at the University of Melbourne and hopes to become a teacher to make a positive impact on students' lives. Jannat Shah, who finished her studies at Hume Central Secondary College, also faced difficulties with remote learning but found support from her friends. She plans to study science at the University of Melbourne and is grateful for the support she received throughout the year. Other students, like Gabrielle Zotto, Sylvia Crozian, Nicholas Milich, and Charlotte Westway, also shared their experiences and aspirations for the future. The students emphasized the importance of finding a work-life balance and taking time to relax amidst the intense workload of Year 12. The students will be eagerly awaiting their ATAR results on Monday, which will determine their university entry. UN Human Rights Declaration turns 75. Deutsche Welle. German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock has warned of the threat to universal human rights principles. She stated that human rights are more important than ever and should not be seen as fair-weather politics. The UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted in 1948, forms the basis of German foreign policy. Baerbock acknowledged the challenge of balancing engagement with accountability for countries with poor human rights records. The UN estimates that there are now 110 million refugees in the world, 735 million people without enough food, and 50 million people in slavery. Is Kim Jong-un's daughter the next North Korean leader or a propaganda star? South China Morning Post. The North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's 10-year-old daughter, Kim Joo-ae, is increasingly being seen as a potential successor to her father. North Korean state media has been highlighting Joo-ae's presence at public events, using increasingly elevated terms of address, such as lovely child, dear child, and most recently, respected child. She has been included in a series of commemorative stamps and has appeared in the North's propaganda mill 19 times since her public debut in November 2022. Observers have noted her rapid development and the attention she has received, including her inclusion in military events. There is speculation that she may be groomed as the next leader of North Korea, despite the country's deeply conservative, patriarchal society. South Korean authorities are now considering Joo-ae as a potential successor, with one official stating, "We're now at the stage of verifying the possibility that she might be the heir apparent." However, some analysts remain skeptical, suggesting that North Korea's male-centered power structure makes it unlikely that a daughter would take over. U.S. students grapple with free speech and anti-Semitism. BBC. University of Pennsylvania President Elizabeth McGill has resigned following criticism of her testimony to Congress about anti-Semitism on campus. Her comments had intensified the already polarized mood at one of America's oldest colleges. With universities under pressure over anti-Semitism, New York governor warns of legal action if discrimination occurs. CNN. New York Governor Kathy Hochul has warned colleges and universities in the state of aggressive enforcement action if they violated discrimination laws. Hochul's warning came in response to a congressional hearing where the presidents of Harvard University, the University of Pennsylvania, and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology failed to explicitly condemn calls for the genocide of Jews on their campuses. Hochul stated that colleges and universities that failed to address anti-Semitism or hatred against students would be in violation of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act and the New York State human rights law. LSU's Jaden Daniels wins Heisman Trophy after an otherworldly season. Washington Post. Jaden Daniels was named the 89th Heisman Trophy winner, becoming the latest emblem of the college football era of player mobility. As the 20th quarterback to win in the 24 presentations this century, Daniels also became the second Heisman winner in a row and the fifth in the past 7 to have transferred during their college years. He follows 2022 winner Caleb Williams, the Washingtonian who moved west to Oklahoma and then farther west to Los Angeles, Southern California. Cows in Rotterdam Harbor, seedlings on rafts in India, are floating farms the future? Associated Press. Floating farms are being explored as a solution for food security and climate change challenges. The floating farm in Rotterdam, which started operating in 2019, is a 3-tiered farm that houses cows and produces milk, cheese, and buttermilk. The farm uses a conveyor belt to drop hay for the cows and collects rainwater for them to drink. The cows are milked by a machine and their manure is turned into organic fertilizer. The farm also plans to expand into vertical agriculture, growing vegetables indoors under lights with water purified using heat from the cow's manure. In India and Bangladesh, a non-governmental organization is creating floating rafts to protect crops from monsoon flood waters. The rafts are made of bamboo and are built larger and heavier to withstand storms. Plastic covering and shade nets protect the crops and solar-powered pumps collect rainwater for irrigation. The organization hopes to scale up the number of floating farms to make them commercially viable. Experts note that floating farms face challenges in terms of scalability and cost-effectiveness but could be a viable option for certain regions and urban areas. Agriculture gets its day at COP28, but experts see big barriers to cutting emissions. Associated Press. More than 100 world leaders have agreed to make their food and farming systems central to their plans to combat climate change. The announcement was made at the United Nations Climate Summit, COP28. The UN Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, has issued a report that offers ways to reduce livestock emissions, which account for over half of all emissions. The report suggests that the meat industry can improve productivity and efficiency without necessarily cutting down on meat consumption. However, the meat industry has been accused of protecting its interests during COP28, with one report claiming that the industry had presented its practices as sustainable nutrition. Farmers and producers have also been accused of resisting attempts to reduce meat consumption, such as opposing meatless Mondays and challenging research into the health risks of eating red meat. Research from Stanford University has also found that animal farming receives significantly more financial support and lobbying attention than meat alternatives. The man who remade Serbia. BBC. Serbia's President Aleksandar Vučić has been accused of undermining democratic norms and eroding democratic institutions. Critics claim that he has consolidated power in his own hands and is on the way to becoming a dictator. Despite this, Vučić has dominated Serbian politics for the past decade, first as prime minister and later as president, and is now more than a year into the second and final 5-year presidential term he is allowed to serve. The Serbian Progressive Party, SNS, he led for more than 10 years until this year looks set to be returned to power in next month's elections. However, a united opposition aims to make gains and target the mayoralty of the capital Belgrade. A victory in Belgrade by the opposition could irrevocably dent Vučić's authority. Vučić has cultivated good relations with rival geopolitical powers, and although he says he wants Serbia to join the EU, he has championed friendly relations with Russia and opened Serbia up to Chinese investment. Ivy League University president resigns as antisemitism testimony draws backlash. The Sydney Morning Herald. University of Pennsylvania President Liz McGill has resigned amid criticism over her testimony at a congressional hearing on antisemitism, where she was unable to say that calls for the genocide of Jews would violate the school's conduct policy. McGill will remain a tenured faculty member at the university's Carey Law School until an interim president is named. The university has been accused of failing to protect Jewish students amid rising fears of antisemitism and fallout from Israel's war in Gaza. One donor threatened to withdraw a $100 million gift because of the university's stance on antisemitism on campus unless McGill was replaced. Anne Schlee, prize-winning novelist who wrote for both children and grown-ups, obituary. Telegraph. Author Anne Schlee has died at the age of 89. Schlee was known for her ability to write successfully for both children and adults. Her novel The Vandal won the 1980 Guardian Children's Fiction Prize, while Rhine Journey was shortlisted for the 1981 Booker Prize. Despite critical acclaim, Schlee's works did not gain as much attention as other experimental works during the 1980s and 1990s. Schlee was surprised when her novel Rhine Journey was approached for republication earlier this year. She is survived by her husband and their 4 children. Update 1 Hong Kong activists arrested in city's birdcage election. Yahoo! 3 pro-democracy activists were arrested in Hong Kong on Sunday, just before voting began in a Patriots-only district election. The arrests came amid a national security clampdown and efforts by the pro-China government to increase turnout at the polls. The activists were members of the League of Social Democrats, which had planned to protest the election process. The election has marginalized opposition figures and has seen a record low turnout, with only 11.6% of the electorate voting by 12:30 p.m. The government has introduced regulations that have effectively barred all Democrats from running in the election. Mon BOE meets with lawmakers in advance of legislative session. Yahoo! The Monongalia County Board of Education, BOE, has warned lawmakers about the financial burden that charter schools are placing on the district. The state's first brick-and-mortar charter school, West Virginia Academy, is set to expand with a branch campus in neighboring Preston County. Every time a student transfers to the charter school, the district loses $4,300 in state funding. The district has already lost 348 students to the charter school, costing it $2 million. Anastasia Palaszczuk, the accidental premier who became a labor legend and trailblazer for women. ABC. Anastasia Palaszczuk, the Premier of Queensland, Australia, has announced her retirement from politics. Palaszczuk, who was the first woman to become a state premier from opposition, is being celebrated for her achievements during her time in office, including the decriminalization of abortion, legalizing voluntary assisted dying, an overhaul of domestic violence practices, and securing the 2032 Olympic Games for Brisbane. However, her government has faced integrity issues, leading to questions about the culture and accountability within the public sector. Palaszczuk's rise to power was unexpected after the Labour Party's defeat in 2012, but she won a surprise victory in 2015 and secured a third term in 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, I am the ever-observant Dr. Six, bringing you a roundup of the latest news from the six-dimensional world. Today, we have seen a wide range of stories, from resignations and controversies in academia to the future of North Korea's leadership and the innovative concept of floating farms. Let's dive into these topics and see what we can uncover. First, we witnessed the resignation of Liz McGill, the president of the University of Pennsylvania, after refusing to condemn the call for the genocide of Jews during a congressional testimony. The pressure from donors to withdraw substantial gifts from the school played a significant role in her decision. This incident highlights the delicate balance universities face in addressing rising antisemitism while upholding their commitment to free speech. In the world of education, we also heard heartwarming stories from the class of 2023 in Victoria, Australia. Despite the challenges of remote learning, these students managed to find balance and support from their peers. They emphasized the importance of maintaining a work-life balance, a lesson we can all benefit from. Moving on to global affairs, the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights celebrated its 75th anniversary. German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock called attention to the importance of upholding these rights, even in the face of challenges. With millions of refugees, people facing food insecurity, and victims of slavery, it is clear that our work towards safeguarding human rights is far from over. Now, let's talk about a potential successor to North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un. His 10-year-old daughter, Kim Joo-ae, has been making appearances in state media and attracting attention. While some speculate that she may be groomed for leadership, others remain skeptical due to the country's conservative, male-dominated power structure. Only time will tell what the future holds for North Korea. Shifting our focus to the United States, we witnessed the resignation of University of Pennsylvania President Elizabeth McGill over criticism of her testimony on campus antisemitism. This incident further illustrates the ongoing struggle with free speech and the fight against hatred on college campuses. New York Governor Kathy Hochul has warned of legal action against colleges and universities that fail to address antisemitism or discrimination, highlighting the growing concern over these issues. In the realm of sports, Jaden Daniels was awarded the Heisman Trophy, highlighting the mobility of college football players. Daniels is the latest in a trend of Heisman winners who have transferred during their college careers. This showcases the evolving landscape of college athletics and the opportunities for players to find success across different programs. Now, let's explore some innovative solutions to global challenges. Floating farms have emerged as a potential answer to food security and climate change. The floating farm in Rotterdam utilizes a 3-tiered system to house cows and produce milk, cheese, and buttermilk. Meanwhile, in India and Bangladesh, floating rafts made of bamboo protect crops from monsoon floodwaters. These floating farms face challenges in terms of scalability and cost-effectiveness but offer potential solutions for certain regions and urban areas. Shifting gears once again, we delve into the world of agriculture and climate change. Over 100 world leaders have committed to making food and farming systems central to their climate change plans. The UN Food and Agriculture Organization has released a report offering ways to reduce livestock emissions without necessarily cutting down on meat consumption. However, the meat industry has been accused of protecting its interests and resisting attempts to reduce consumption. It is clear that addressing climate change in the agricultural sector requires cooperation and a willingness to make significant changes. In Serbia, President Aleksandar Vučić has faced accusations of eroding democratic institutions and consolidating power. Despite criticism, Vučić has dominated Serbian politics for the past decade and looks set to secure another term in the upcoming elections. A united opposition aims to challenge his authority, highlighting the ongoing struggle for democracy in the region. Now, let's turn our attention to the literary world. Acclaimed author Anne Schlie has sadly passed away at the age of 89. Known for her ability to write successfully for both children and adults, Schlie's works garnered critical acclaim but did not receive the same level of attention as other experimental works of the time. Her legacy lives on through her novels, which will continue to inspire readers for generations to come. In Hong Kong, pro-democracy activists were arrested just before voting began in a district election. The election itself has faced criticism for marginalizing opposition figures and seeing a record low turnout. These developments underscore the challenges facing democracy in Hong Kong and the ongoing struggle for political representation. Lastly, we heard about the Monongalia County Board of Education's concerns about the financial burden posed by charter schools. The expansion of West Virginia Academy has resulted in a loss of funding for the district, highlighting the complexities of the education system and the need for careful consideration of its impact on local communities. That wraps up today's news from the six-dimensional world. I hope you enjoyed this whirlwind tour of the latest stories. Remember, your thoughts and opinions matter. Please share your ideas and questions in the comment section. What are your thoughts on the challenges universities face in addressing anti-Semitism? Do you believe floating farms could be a viable solution to food security and climate change? Let's keep the conversation going. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.